Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting me here today. What a warm welcome. Thank you. Yes, so I'm Kate Swindoors. I live in Sopwell Ward in St Albans, and I'm here tonight to tell you about our new group, Sopwell EcoStars, which is part of the Sopwell Residents Association. Tackling climate change together and building local resilience is the name of the talk today. So to start, why is that not moving on? There. What's going on there? Just a little bit about me and the groups I help run. So this all started back in around 2017, where I got involved in a local campaign group for a new community centre in our area, the Cottonwheel and Sopwell Hub campaign, with Janet, one of the members here, and some other people as well. Last year, we came to the conclusion of that campaign after several years of petitions and being on design meetings and consulting the community. And we have our lovely community centre up and running now, which is fabulous. And with that, we have moved our little subgroup into the Sopwell Residents Association, which is chaired by Janet Charles. And since then, we've kind of moved on to form this new subgroup, Sopwell EcoStars, focusing on sustainability and resilience. Also, Helen mentioned that I helped start a community gardening project a few years ago as well. We kind of wanted a garden at the community centre, but it was taking too long to get what we wanted. So we started a community garden elsewhere in the ward, and we also encourage people to grow at home. And it's just a very lovely project, and you can hear about that some of the time maybe. And then another group I'm in with Chantal and Kimberly, who are on the call as well tonight, is called HEART Community Group, which stands for Hertfordshire Enabling and Adapting for Resilience Together. And there we focus very much on kind of the worst case scenarios for climate change and how people are affected by that. There's a lot of coaching and counselling done by Kim and Chantal for people who are suffering from eco-anxiety, but we also have a focus on advocating and lobbying for more awareness and more things to go on in this area. So we talk a lot with Herts County Council and some of the other districts and boroughs, and also lots of community groups and sustainability groups in the area. So what did we want to do? We wanted to move on the narrative from the kind of net zero message that lots of the sustainability groups around have been giving of late, and that's all very necessary. Of course, we should rightly focus on that, and that's called mitigation. So that's cutting emissions and drawing down the carbon that's already in the atmosphere through growing trees and carbon capture, things like that. And we wanted to move that narrative on because it's just too late. It's kind of established that it's too late just to be focusing on cutting emissions. Obviously, we have to do everything we can to get them down, to make it less worse. So we wanted to move that narrative along, not as far and as hardcore as HEART Group is, but just to start getting that message out. And we wanted to do this on a hyper-local level, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail later on. But that's the kind of 20-minute neighbourhoods model that the Town and Country Planning Association advocate for. So you have all your needs, everything you need locally within a 20-minute walk or cycle. Sometimes they're called 15-minute cities, but that kind of level, the kind of village level, if you like. So that has benefits in lowering emissions, obviously, if you're travelling less, but also this community aspect and health and well-being. So here's our little tagline, supporting each other to tread lightly, adapt and stay strong in the face of an uncertain future. So treading lightly, keeping those emissions down as much as we can, reducing plastic, all those kind of things that you do in a sustainability project. Adapt, that's preparing for what's baked into the system, and staying strong, a focus on that kind of inner resilience that people need through the work through HEART that Chantal and Kim do. and in the face of an uncertain future, because we just don't know what it's going to bring. So why do we need resilience? So I'm really not an expert in all this kind of thing, but I do listen to the people who do seem to know something about it. This is Baroness Brown. She's of the Climate Change Committee in the UK, and this is her speech, one of her speeches in October 2020. So she'd like to see us launch a race for resilience. We have a race for zero that's been launched in association with the COP, where we're getting businesses and organisations and community groups and local authorities all signing up to say they're going to get to net zero. I would like to see businesses and local authorities and community groups all signing up to say that we're going to be prepared for the changes that the climate's going to bring. And that's not a message that is really given out into the media, the news, and our politicians. There is plenty of stuff going on, but we don't really hear about it very much. And I think that really needs to change now. So next, a bit of a disclaimer. As I said, I'm not an expert, and even the experts don't know what's going to happen in the future. You know, there is so much uncertainty. There is complex modelling systems. We don't know kind of where climate change might hit, the timing of how bad it can get, and how bad it can get. So it's all very uncertain. But this nice little cartoon from back in the days when climate denial was a thing, but I think it still works today. You know, there's plenty of benefits for working for a more resilient and sustainable future. This cartoon came out in COVID times, and really is great for illustrating the scale of the issues we've got. And also showing that, you know, in COVID, it really does show how fragile our system is. We think everything's going to be fine and things get moving, but how quickly the supply chains messed up, and also the mental health and everything that went with it. So that's that. So climate change is really only part of a polycrisis. That's a word that's becoming more and more well used. They used that a lot at Davos in the World Economic Forum meeting last week. We're in what we might call overshoots. We're overshooting the planet's ability to sustain us, or so we've got climate change, we've got economic fragility, we've got a system that benefits profits over people and planet. We've got more and more polarized politics, increasing social injustice, and including the cost of living crisis right now. We've got resource depletion, and obviously we're also seeing collapse of biodiversity and ecosystems. So there's a lot going on, and we're going to focus mainly on climate change tonight, but obviously there's lots of intersecting things there, and it's all important. Here's what the UK Climate Change Committee say about climate. This was back in 2021, last assessment, that we're not on track to meet net zero targets by 2050, and we're nowhere near resilient to cope with the additional warming that is inevitable in the coming decades. Did you hear much about that back then? Are you hearing anything now? It's just not getting the message out very much yet. And the all-party parliamentary climate change group in Parliament also agree with that. We're really not doing very well as a country. And Daisy Cooper, our MP, had a pivotal role in setting this up and keeping us up to date, just tracking how the policies are working in the UK. And that's just the UK. You know, we don't account for a huge amount of emissions globally, so that's, you know, we're not doing very well, and we're one of the leaders. What does that mean? Here's the IPCC, the international agency. They say action on climate change is urgent. We also need to build resilience and adapt to a changing climate. Even if emissions stop tomorrow, there's still more warming baked in. So this concept again, that because there's a lag in how the emissions and warming work, that even if we do stop emissions, we're going to have more warming coming our way. And we're already around 1.1, 1.2 degrees, and they're already saying that we're probably not going to make it to keep warming under 1.5. So what does that mean? Well, we know that it's going to increasingly affect all of society and the environment, our soils, water, wildlife, food supply, health, infrastructure, businesses, the economy and security. And we are already seeing it. We're seeing heat waves, we're seeing our rare chalk stream, the River Fare, drying up. And again, this is impacted as well by the water companies abstracting sort of this poly crisis thing again, but you know, it's all intertwined. Here's the Canada slide for you, darling. Not good news at all. This happened again in 2021 in the summer. Large swathes of Canada and North America were under a heat dome for several days, getting up to 49.6 in a town, little village called Lytton in Canada. And this event, they weren't prepared for it at all. They don't have air conditioners. I'm sure their wildfire preparedness isn't anything like, say, Australia. And this event was off the scale. This was not even part of the worst case climate models. So I think UK have got off lightly so far, but we are seeing climate change effects happening now throughout the world. We've got the Germany floods a few years ago, Pakistan floods last year, lots of things going on. And that's in, oh, and here's just a little illustration. This town, Lytton, is there on the left-hand side, on the same latitude as us in Southeast England. So, you know, these things can be happening wherever right now. And that's all without knowing that we've got a possible El Nino climate system coming at the end of this year. We've been in a period of La Nina for the last few years, which is generally a cooler system and wetter. So we've got perhaps some watching and waiting to see how that might affect us next summer, to see how it's going to affect the Southern Hemisphere for our winter this year. So yeah, that's a little bit of a look through why we think that we need to start looking at resilience. And as I said, Sopolitica stars kind of want to move the narrative on a bit, not as much as the worst case scenarios that we might look at with Heart Community Group. So I'm going to skip over these next few slides. We won't be dwelling on the ridiculously steep trajectory we need to get to for our to get to net zero, or how the greenhouse gases are still going up after 27 COPs. And we won't be dwelling on tipping points or the aerosol masking effect. But yeah, if you ever want to look into those, I want to talk to us through Heart, you can. Let's focus on what the Climate Change Committee said in their report back in 2021 of the highest priorities they had for they thought the UK government should be focusing on in the next 2 years. So that's up till now. Not really sure how much they are doing. And perhaps looking there at where we can be doing things locally. Obviously, the Climate Change Committee are looking at UK on a national level. But you can see there in the first orange box, we could be looking at some supply chain issues. How can we manage that a little bit, or make people aware of that and protect them from any supply crunches? We could be looking into what we might do if there's a failure of the power system, and looking into the effects of heat in homes and buildings. In terms of that bottom box, the multiple risks to the UK from climate change impacts overseas, not really sure how much we can do really at the local level there, apart from just foster that spirit of compassion for climate migrants and things like that. Over on the left-hand side in the orange there, we will want to be looking at flooding and water scarcity too. But for the Climate Change Committee report, there are well-developed policies in place there. The World Economic Forum also published their risk report this year, a few weeks ago, and they're most likely severe risks the next 2 years are the cost of living and natural disasters and extreme weather events. So again, these are the kind of things that we really want to start getting into people's psyche and working out ways that we can help with that. So we need action, obviously, at all levels, and whatever level you're working at, it will influence the other levels, which is great. And we obviously are going to be talking about the local level today. And this is a cute little cartoon from Rob, a quote by Rob Hopkins, who was part of the setting up the transition town movement. If we wait for governments, it will be too late. If we act as individuals, it'll be too little. And if we act as communities, it might just be enough. And that's the kind of space that we want to be in. So, yeah, but this is why we want to be we call it a hyper-local community group. So, you know, regardless of whether you think the 20-minute neighbourhood model is a great concept and the way to go, right to those people who think that, you know, the way things are going, we might end up with societal collapse. There's so many reasons why it's important to foster resilience at the hyper-local scale. So number one, we were built for it. We're tribal. It's just our natural state to be in small communities. So let's celebrate all that is. Gives us agency. There's just so many, you know, so many things we can do as individuals, but even better as a group that we can do at the local level. Doesn't need much money or any money, doesn't need permissions or insurance. Just crack on and get some work done locally. It's easy to make connections with the people you bump into on the school run or in the shop or in the dog walking fields. And those kind of, again, because we're built to act at this level, it's much easier to get the trust and learn to work together and to build compassion with local people around you, your neighbours and your friends. You can really tailor how you want to approach your activities to communities' needs at this level. And I'll show you a little bit more on that in a moment. It's really easy to cut your emissions if you're all working locally, and you know, to work on sustainability projects. The local public health team keep assuring me that they've really got emergency preparedness covered, and they do a great deal of stuff. And yeah, I kind of agree with them up to a point, but just seeing those kind of heat waves that are going on and increased storms, you know, I think it's probably pertinent that in the next few years we need to start thinking about who we might know locally, who's got the skills, and maybe have some plans in place where we could take maybe vulnerable people to the school with the air conditioning if the hospitals were overwhelmed. Hopefully it won't be in the near future, but I think it's something that we are going to need to start thinking about. And there's probably lots more things, and it'd be interesting to hear your views on that and anything on our presentation. And finally, funding. There are lots of ways to get funding, and it's quite easy at this level. The county councillors have divisions, so we are in Stockwell and Verulam, and the county councillors have a budget every year. It's £10,000 this year to give to local community groups. It's very easy to get that funding. Obviously, the district will give funding as well, and local businesses, and even individual fundraising is quite easy at this level. So what's our approach? We wanted our initial focus to sort of try and find that intersection between these three areas. So again, the mitigation is talking about cutting emissions and living more simply, and and lowering our carbon footprints. We've got the adaptation, the preparing for potential climate impacts, and also this piece on, you know, social justice, connection, upskilling, all the community stuff basically. And so we were trying to find things that would work for our community for that, you know, on areas like food, water, energy, shelter, zero waste, those kind of areas. So just a little bit about a bit more about Sopwell. So we're a ward just south of the St Albans town centre in St Albans City and District. So we've got the town of Harpenden to the north and surrounding villages. And we're an unparished ward. So there's lots of parishes, obviously. A lot of wards around the city centre are unparished. We've got 3 councillors. And I guess as the Residents Association, we sort of represent the community as a parish council might, without being political. And then drilling down further into Sopwell, there's 5 sub-wards, which you'll see on the next slide. We've got the post-war Cotton Mill Estates to the south west. We've got a retail park for Sainsbury's and the Range, and we've got the Abbey Flyer down to Watford. We've also got the River Ver running right through the ward, and lots of lovely green space around that. We've got the golf course, we've got play areas, allotments, and lots of space for wildlife as well. It's really, really lovely areas to live in. And it's important when we're looking at this kind of hyperlocal level, because you can kind of get to know your community a lot better and what the strengths and weaknesses are. So again, these kind of 5 sub-wards, you can see that Sopwell actually has quite a lot of pockets of deprivation, as they're termed. So we're not the most affluent community at all, although there's, you know, plenty of people who are doing just fine. There's a real mix. And to be honest, that kind of working class post-war estate, there's always kind of been a tight-knit and well-connected kind of area anyway, so that's been a great strength to have that already. And as we were campaigning for the community centre, you know, that's grown and grown. You can get these kind of estimates of carbon footprints from various different websites, and they're estimates obviously based on census data and housing stock and all those kind of things. But this is just kind of illustrating perhaps the different approach you might take for your community. So whether you're rural or you're inner city, or even if you're just in the next town along to the north, you can see that there's lots of different ways that you can be looking at the carbon footprint and what to tackle. So obviously we wouldn't be going around and in our neighbourhood trying to target people and message them to reduce their flying. But what we could do is a lot on targeting consumption, which again will intersect with the cost of living crisis, and looking at buildings and food as well. So that's what we have been doing. We've started working with partners on a repair fair, and we're hoping to do another one soon, a series of seasonal cooking for less events where people are taking food that we've grown at the community garden or in local allotments where we can. It's cheaper, it's healthier, those kind of things. So getting those messages across at the events, but also really celebrating and letting everyone know about that through our communication channels, which we'll talk about in a little while. At the top right box there, you'll see we have all the kind of information out about climate change at these events as well. So really trying to get that message across in community groups. So yeah, our next event is saving energy and cutting bills, which I'll give you a bit more detail about at the end of this talk. We've started doing closed collections, and here you see on the bottom left there, we just have a few people's doorsteps that you can go and drop your black school shoes off, and we're distributing those to local schools. We hope to do larger clothes swaps as well. We'll do some emotional resilience sessions in partnership with Heart, and we're hoping to do some film nights as well on environmental things. So there's lots else we could be doing as well. I'd really like your thoughts on what else we might do. And also we know who the other groups operating in the area are. There's the community pantry, who do the rescuing food from supermarkets that otherwise would go to waste. They run sort of lunchtime food sessions, which is great. We connect with those. We've got the Cycle Hub that's connected to the community centre, so that promoting active travel is already there. And obviously we've got the food growing project as well. Oh, and schools will do their uniform sales, churches will do jumble sales, and a whole lot more as well. So, you know, there's plenty going on, and we can see where maybe the gaps are and see what people want to do. So that's what we've been doing so far. And our next phase really is it is really trying to get the resilience piece through a lot more. So what we want to do is we want to get the local schools and the faith groups and the local community groups together in a room and have a session. And that we're hoping to do that in the next few months, putting the invites out now. Oh, wrong way. And at the very least, what we hope is going to come out of that is we're going to have targeted messages coming out from trusted sources, from those trusted community leaders, to move that narrative on, but also just talking about the cutting your carbon footprint and what events we can be doing. What else we'd like to see is more community engagement sessions with those groups. We'd like to work on resilient community buildings. We could maybe all club together and start a community energy project and have solar power panels on all those buildings' roofs, or perhaps we can work out which buildings might be useful in a heat wave, those kind of things, or even just club together and retrofit them all and have water butts on them to have that kind of, we're the community leaders and this is how we're leading and showing what we can do locally to do our bit. Then again, yes, this idea of community preparedness, volunteers, and maybe even get a risk assessment, climate risk assessment, and a future vision, a local plan where we want to be. I did this talk last week to a smaller group, and one thing that came out was, you know, trying to work out how this was working or could work here compared to where they were. So I've put this slide together for success factors that we think have been important to get us so far. So like we said, we've already got lots of local environmental groups and awareness here in St Albans. We've got Sustainable St Albans, which is just a brilliant organisation, and we rely on heavily to partner with. But we've got the Vere Valley Society, we've got the Community Pantry, lots of groups. It's already kind of normal here to be talking about the environment. Like I said before, we've got a strong community spirit here locally. I think that's kind of historical, but it's definitely got more because we had that campaign for the community centre. Connections. I can't say enough about building connections is the way forward to build community resilience. So yeah, we've got good connections with the schools and the faith and community groups and with local government, and what I call the community stars. They know who they are, who are always doing their bit for the community and keeping everything going. And communications, as the Sockborough Residents Association, we have a twice yearly printed newsletter going to every household, so we can get some messages out through there. We've got the website and electronic mailing lists. The other groups are really happy to have our bits and pieces in their newsletters. And we've always had local community Facebook groups, and I think through COVID and through the community centre project, we've got a lot more connected levels there, right down to street level, WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups that we can filter messages through, like the when our next events are, and sharing any particular news that's going on, and then community notice boards as well. And obviously we're not getting everyone, so many people on social media. Lots of the newsletters go straight in the recycling bin, but the people who are interested in community life are there and wanting to help and wanting to do more. So those are the people that we want to grab. So that's all I want to talk about really today. So thank you for listening. Just a few sort of events that are coming up. Our next event is how to save energy and cut bills at home, which you'd be welcome to come along to. You can reserve a space on Eventbrite for the 4th of February. As part of Heart Community Group, we will be having a conversation with Rupert Reed, Professor Rupert Reed, on the 9th of February. Again, you're very welcome to sign up and listen to that, or that it will be recorded as well and up on the Heart website. He is pivotal in a new movement called the Moderate Flank, which is kind of a concept, the radical flank of, say, Extinction Rebellion, school strikes, those kind of people. The moderate flank, they want to get together people in their communities and in where they're working as a moderate flank to really carry on pushing this, making change, but not having to glue your hand to a street or anything like that. So he's a really inspiring speaker. I really recommend, if you can, to sign up for that. And finally, Extinction Rebellion are doing a big protest walk in April. They won't be breaking any laws this time. It's all, I think they want to get 100,000 people on the street. So that might be a good one to all go down to. Finally, thanks to our partners and our sponsors. Obviously, we're part of Sopwell Residents Association, and Heart are giving us lots of advice on the resilience piece. We work with a small group called Food Pals on the seasonal cooking for less, Sustainable St Albans, and Grow Community, and the Community Pantry. We work very closely with. We're hoping to start a project with the Building Research Establishment, BRE, down the road, Watford Way. We have booked them in to start auditing some of the community buildings and how resilient they might be. And obviously the St Albans Council. Our funders so far have been Waitrose for the cooking sessions, Herts County Council, and Local Giving. So thank you very much. If you would like to donate to our project, we always need extra funding for hall hire and contributions to insurance and stuff like that. That's the link there to our website, and the donate button for PayPal is on that homepage. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.
That's great, Kate. Thank you very much for that inspiring scanter through a very, very big topic, and all of the things that you and everybody who's involved are get up to. We've got about 10 minutes or so for questions. Just while I find the others, we'll get started. If I can hand over to Anna Barrett, who it was Anna who invited you, who I think has some plans of her own based upon what you're doing. So Anna, if you want to tell us a bit about what you're doing and perhaps ask Kate a question, do you want to mute yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Hi Kate, thank you very much for coming. It's been a fascinating talk. I really enjoyed it. I feel inspired but very daunted at the same time. I'm, as well as being a Soroptimist, I'm a member of Greenwood United Reformed Church, and we have plans. Our hall has fallen down recently. Well, it's not fallen down, but it's needs replacing, and we are planning to replace it with a hall that will be have be environmentally friendly, and we've got a lovely green space around us, so we're hoping to use that we're beginning to use that space to develop a wildflower meadow and support biodiversity. I think the challenge I feel that we have is getting in contact with the rest of the community and getting them engaged with what's going on. And I wonder whether you have any tips on how to do that. I mean, it's a very different area to Sopwell, obviously Chiswell Green, but if you've got any tips that you could share with me, I'd be very grateful.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know you're part of the community garden project.
Yes,
yeah.
as well.
So I think, again, it's just those overlapping communities. Make sure you've got mailing lists. I mean, you've got a really active parish council there at St Stephen's, haven't you? Have you got kind of people on that council who share those values? Or maybe you should all sign up to be on the council. So I think perhaps talking to them will be good. Do they do a newsletter, or they must have a mailing list?
We have a because St Stephen's is sort of, there's different areas within St Stephen's as well. So Chiswell Green is sort of an area on its own, and there's Bricket Wood and Park Street, and so I mean I'm although there are connections there, I'm thinking mainly in Chiswell Green that we'd be serving sense. Chiswell Green.
I think
but yes, we have a very committed parish councillor that would be good to get involved with our ideas. Yes, you're right.
And get some, messaging out at the community centre. It's so well used, isn't it? And the schools, sure, there's the Eco Council leads or people out there. I know County Council are trying to do more work at the school level on, I think they want them to write climate action plans, and they have this heat decarbonisation plans happening. So there's plenty going on, and schools have a lot of bandwidth. So any help there that you can offer, although that's quite a big thing, and I don't think I'm even confident enough doing things on those levels yet. But again, it's starting small, really. We started the community garden without the garden. I just had a seed stall outside my house and seedlings, and more people have come into the project and helping do that. And kind of that doorstep collection of school shoes. One of the local schools wanted extra shoes for some of their poorer families. So you just have to put that message out.
Oh well, yeah. We've got a parent toddler group at the church, so I'm sure that is something that we could start off there and build on that as well. It's a good idea.
Yeah, and then you need to just hijack the local Facebook groups, or maybe even start a WhatsApp group. I find WhatsApp so much better than Facebook.
Yes, I agree.
So just, don't advertise the invite link on social media, because you'll just get a lot of spam. But you can ask people to, if you want to connect with us on this project, and just build it that way. Because I don't know in Chiswell Green, but there's so many street groups now that you kind of almost need like a street rep for the
yes.
That way is quite an effective way of doing that, and you'd be surprised how many people want to do something.
Thank you. Yes, that's very useful. Thank you very much.
That sounds fabulous. Linda, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks. Hello, Kate. Linda here. So you're doing an awful lot of good stuff around. Very, very impressed. I didn't realise that what you were doing was as wide as what you're doing, that the scope is as wide as what you're doing. With all of these initiatives, though, I always go back to, how are you measuring what difference you're making in order to, in your case, improve resilience, people feeling a bit more resilience in your community? How are you doing that?
That's a very good question, Linda. Yeah, I mean, all we can do is perhaps some surveys, things like that. We can talk to people at the events, Chantal, who's part of Heart, and Sopwell Eco Stars, runs emotional resilience sessions. So we can look how many people are coming to that and how many people are feeling better about it. Have you got any suggestions? Obviously, what we'd like to do is try and get the community buildings more resilient. I think people will feel quite assured if, you know, there's like a safe space for people to go in a heat wave, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, apart from information, one of the things that I think is an indicator of improving particular resilience is when individuals create and start their own groups or initiatives or projects themselves, and other people join in with that, which is a sort of cross networking, etc. That's a good indicator that that you're making a difference.
I can see Robert. Robert's got his hand up. Have you got a question, Robert, that you'd like to ask?
Yes, I'd like to know what relationship you have with the Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability organisation that's run by the County Council.
So that's the partnership, the HCCSP.
Yeah.
Yes, we made connections through Heart first for that, but I am emailing them now as Sopwell Eco Stars. Yes, we know the name of the officer involved in it, and we have communications, and they have kind of regular-ish meetings that we go along to as well. But there's also a kind of informal Hertfordshire Sustainability Group forum that we've met a couple of times on Zoom. So that's organised by someone over in East Herts, I think, East or North Herts. But if you want to message me later, I can put you in touch.
Thank you. And are you involved with your local neighbourhood plan?
Not yet. It's something on the list, but again, those the kind of things are a bit over my head what it all means, and yeah, there's only a small number of us, so you know, if you've got input in how to go about inputting into that, be really
thank you.
Kat, I'll come over to you in a second. Kat, if you yours.
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, there's some Skona's got a hand up, so if you want to ask yours, Kat, then I'll go to Skona.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I was just asking, I put it in the chat, whether there's links between the group and St Albans Green Party, as Simon Grover has been the councillor. I'm on London Road, so he's been our councillor for over 10 years now, and we've got a really strong Green Party in that local area. They'd be good to link in with if you weren't.
Yes, yeah, there's a few of us are in the Green Party, so we're on the WhatsApp chat, and I don't tend to go to the meetings, so I've got too many other meetings to go to.
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, we are connected with them. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Skona, do you want to ask yours?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Phil. I'm from same as Robert, from the Nebworth Environmental Group. Enjoyed the talk, it was a great talk, and Kim recommended us attending this. One question is, I was just wondering why it's specifically aimed at women, because I get the impression actually that so I belong to quite a few groups like Greenpeace and XR, Friends of the Earth, and Greenpeace certainly, and XR mainly, that they seem to be predominantly women. And I was just wondering, is there any reason why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. There are plenty of men out there and non-binary people who are very into environmental matters. Can we get them involved in our projects locally? There are a few, but it is more women than men. A lot of us, this might sound stereotypical, have got a bit more time on our hands. I'm not working at the moment. I do need to go back to work at some point, but you know, I have a breadwinner in the house. A lot of men aren't as connected on social media so on, seeing the messages. I mean, we're trying with the repair fairs, that's getting a lot more people in who are more, again, this sounds stereotypical, but yeah, it might appeal more to the men. There's plenty of women there as well. We'd love to do men's sheds or something like that, but we just don't have the space or, you know, the facilities to do that. So yeah, if you have any ideas, I mean, we've got the cycle centre as well, which is, you know, there's a lot of kids go down there, they're mainly boys and lots of guys there. But yeah, any ideas or thoughts, yeah, please pass them across.
Interesting one. Has anybody else got any other questions? Because I think we've
One there from Val.
okay. Val, would you like to ask yours?
Yeah, so Kate, actually it's been very fascinating listening to what you've been talking about, and I've just said that with our local MPs attending our speaker meeting next month, and we've asked them to talk about the net zero targets and some of the challenges within Parliament about sort of making it a reality, really. I've been quite interested to hear what you're talking about, our resilience as well, but is there any specific question you think we should ask him?
About getting to net zero?
Yeah, and actually, I think you've really highlighted about resilience as well, actually, which I don't think we were thinking about. So that's kind of broadened what we might ask him about. So,
oh, I don't know. I think probably Linda Scholl might have a better idea of that question. Do you want to jump in, Linda?
And there I was quite liking you, Kate. I'm changing my mind now. I'm ever so sorry, but can you repeat the question? I was reading it and listening to it at the same time and didn't get the point.
Yeah, we have our MP in Harrogate is attending our meeting next month, and the topic is looking about how we achieve net zero, basically. But we're trying to look from the parliamentary aspect as well, because obviously there's benefits and disbenefits to some people about the targets, aren't they? If you work in certain areas, you know, you see net zero is taking away your job. In other places, you see it giving you a job. There's lots of things there's lots and lots of issues around the people who are trying to get our votes are really concerned about. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
So we're trying. We know that our MP is very pro sort of the environment, etc. But is there any questions that you think, given that we're going to have him for about an hour and a half, that we could put to him? I mean, we've got some questions already lined up, but if you've got anything, having listened to what's been said today, particularly also about resilience,
Right.
it'd be good to hear what you need to say, what you think we could say.
I think on resilience, I've got a bit less to say at the moment. This is also new to me, thinking about the resilience side. I remember you saying that. I think where I might go with my local MP is, how much money have you got? Where can you spend it? How are you going to raise more money? How are you going to get the government to spend more money on trying to spread the word that we have to do something about climate change in lots of different places, in lots of different ways, in order to achieve net zero? Secondly, you need to know, or he needs to know an awful lot about his own area, what his own geographical, what his own constituency can do, what is happening already in that constituency, and how is he supporting them? How can he support them at a national level and other groups that do the same sorts of things? Does any of that help?
Yes, and I know it's quite involved in the net zero group in Harrogate, but perhaps it's finding out more about how he's involved and actually, as you said, how he's lobbying.
Yes.
And not that I'm several steps back from Linda and certainly from Kate, but Kate's very kindly provided her presentation for us, so Jane will be putting it on our website. The slide that she had of Baroness Brown, is it Baroness Brown's presentation to Parliament? I'm sure we could probably get you a copy of that, because that will be very pertinent to asking about the resilience part of it, and you know, you can make reference to that and find out if you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the the government, I think, are bound to produce a national adaptation plan. I think every 5 years it is, well, every 3 years. So that's kind of in process at the moment. So you can always ask about that. And there's also a national resilience strategy that's just come out. You could perhaps ask if it goes far enough.
Oh, right. So yeah, so it's, perhaps we can look at that before he comes then.
Yeah. Wade through
Yeah.
that. I mean, there's so much going on, but you know, it's not coming down to our level yet, really. It's not filtering through, I don't think.
Yeah, I have to make a confession. I did take some screen grab photos of your presentation, and that was one of the slides I took a picture of. So
No problem. Let's get this message out as far and wide as it goes, and you know, add to it. I'm sure there's lots of extra things that need doing.
thank
That's
you.
the idea of this evening's talk, so that Kate could get it out to a wider audience, and we were hoping we could spread it beyond. So if you keep spreading it beyond, then just keep going. That's exactly what it's all about.
I think it's fantastic. Thank you very much for making it available as well. And hopefully I can show this to our club members as well once
You're
it's
very-
out there.
As I said, we are. Kate has very kindly said we can put her presentation on our website. Jane has also been recording all of it, so that there will be a connection to that. Will probably go up onto YouTube, so you'll be able to pass the link on so that other people who haven't been able to join us this evening will be able to watch it as well as be able to look at the presentation. So we're fully supportive of getting the message out there as far as we can. I'm sure we can talk about it all evening, but I'm conscious that we're running out of time. We do want to, if people don't mind, say a very standard old traditional welcome. Thank you very much to Kate. Jane's going to take a picture of us. So whilst we're clapping silently to say thank you to Kate, Jane's going.
I'll just stop you. I'm going to stop recording.
Sorry, stop recording. Hold on for 2 seconds, and then we'll do an orchestrated thank you